Hi everyone. Hello. Hi. Hi Ria. Hello. Hey Rohini. Hi. Hi Vasudha. Hi everyone. Thank you for joining today's live. Okay, don't resign right now, Ashwini. For you need to hear this live to decide on what you need to do. So, guys, today we have a very interesting topic for discussion: how to quit your. Thank you, Kashika. How to quit your job and whether you should actually quit your job or you shouldn't. So. Yeah, this is going to be one interesting discussion, and I can see that a lot of people are. No, okay, fine, don't resign, guys. You need to hear this live first. Okay, so. So like I said, the topic for today's discussion is really interesting. So the finally that moment has come and you have decided to quit your job. But before you do that, you should really ask yourself a few questions. For instance, is it the organization that is the source of your concern, or is it your job that is causing some problems, or are you even ready to make that next move? If you do this quick analysis, maybe you'll come up with reasons that tell you you don't really need to quit your job. Don't worry, I'm not making a case for something. I'm not making a case for settling for something less than a fulfilling career. All I'm saying is that you really need to do a quick analysis on what is going to be the right thing for you. There can be a chance that your unhappiness is not because of your organization or your job. So that is why I have our founder and CEO Priyanka Gill, who is going to guide us better on this, who is going to talk to us about what should you do, what should be your next step if you really want to, if you feel like quitting your job. So while there may be dozens of reasons, you want to leave your company in pursuit of something better, but should you even take that decision? That moment of confusion always comes in. So I am going to add Priyanka Gill, our founder and CEO, to this live, and she is going to answer all your questions. Yeah, Ashima, I see your question. But let's just have Priyanka Gill answer all these questions. Okay, let me add her. Going to hear everything from a boss's perspective, and you can ask all the doubts that you want, that you have been having, if you really have been thinking of quitting your job. Hi, PG, she's here. Okay. How
Hello,
are you, PG?
I'm really good, really good. Hope you all are doing well.
Yes, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
Excited to be doing the CMA.
Okay, so we already have a lot of excitement over the topic. So I think we should start without delaying it. So I was just telling our viewers that while there may be dozens of reasons that you want to quit your job in pursuit of something better, but should you really do that? How do you know that you're making the right decision? Should you quit your job or should you stay on? So I will just start this discussion by asking you that you are a founder of a company, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of people coming in, coming to the company, joining the company and leaving the company. So why don't you tell us something about this from a boss's perspective?
Yeah,
Can you
so
hear me, PG?
I chose this topic actually. Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can.
So look, I chose this topic personally. We were discussing what AMA to do, and I actually came up with this because I've seen over the years this is one topic that's literally on everyone's mind at most times, right? Either people are happy where they are or they're not happy where they are. If they're not happy, then they're wondering whether they should move on or not move on. So it's a kind of this one very perpetual topic of discussion I've seen throughout all these years, right? And I've seen all kinds of people coming, going, how they decide to quit, how they go through the process of leaving or not leaving, how they negotiate back with the company. So yeah, this is kind of, I think, doing this part of your career management well is a skill. Knowing when to move on, moving on for the right reasons is a very, very important skill. And how you move on is actually the most important part of everything, right? Because remember, you are going to be in your career for decades. It's not a short
Yeah.
thing. So these 3, 4, 5 years you might give to a company or even more is just a small part of a long career trajectory that you're going to be on. So this is,
And you might come across those people again.
people go full circle. So
Yeah.
bridges is not the best way to do anything in life. And I keep repeating that in all the AMAs that I do as well. So yeah, decided to kind of talk about this and to really kind of get into this idea of quitting for the right reasons. I'm not saying don't quit. Of course, all of us move on in life.
Yeah.
Natural. It's even healthy at some point. But doing it for the
Hmm.
is important, and not doing it as a knee-jerk reaction to your manager saying something to you you don't like, right? That's kind of the worst
True.
way to quit. So yeah, being really sensible, rational, and non-emotional when you're kind of taking this call is actually the key, and not being influenced by your peers, right? Oftentimes say you've had a bad day, you go vent to your friend, oh, I'm going to quit. I say, yeah, of course you should quit. And none of you are being reasonable about it, right? So how
Yeah.
very unemotional, reasonable, and rational when you take this call, that actually is kind of the hallmark of a seasoned professional versus kind of
Right.
professional reaction to something not going your way.
So PJ, what if like you get this feeling that you want to quit your job? What are the things that you should ask yourself? What are the questions that you should ask yourself before you take that decision to give your hand in your resignation?
The thing is that it's, I mean, a job, think of a job like a relationship, right? There are two people in a relationship. It's you and the company, or you and your manager. You are a part of this kind of this relationship that you have. In a normal relationship, you can never blame the problems that you have on one person alone. It's never the case, right? It's never the case that it's only one person at fault. I mean, one person might be more at fault, one person might be less at fault, but oftentimes both the people are at fault in a relationship when things are not going well.
Yeah.
Similarly, in a company or in a job as well, your personality comes into it, your reaction comes into everything as well. And so of course the company will have its own plus and minuses as well. So understanding that, is it something to do with me, why I'm not happy right now? Maybe is there something to do with me, or is there something systemically wrong in the company that doesn't suit me?
Hmm.
So I understand it.
Hmm.
First, you're actually even having this conversation with yourself, right? If there's
Hmm.
systemically wrong in the company that does not kind of the company is not aligned with you, or you're not aligned with the company, before even taking the decision to quit, it's important to have that very calm discussion with your manager, with your HR person, and trying to really understand what's going on here. Is the company willing to see your point of view? Is your point of view rational? Is it a correct point of view? And takes problem that you might be, right? Only once
Hmm.
that you really feel that you've exhausted all possibilities and your concern is a real concern. It's not something that you are individually feeling, or you could just be having a bad time personally as well. So once you've done that process and you really feel you've come to a point where there is no, I mean, there is no recourse or there's no answer to your problems, that is when you start generally thinking about moving on. But before going
Hmm.
this kind of very in-depth process emotionally and intellectually, there's no point taking a decision to quit, because if you do that, right, the next company you join, you'll find yourself in the same
Hmm.
again, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Us
Hmm.
are doomed to make the same mistakes over and over and again as human beings, right? Till we are able to break the pattern with ourselves, right? So understanding very kind of uh, with an open brain, open mind and heart,
Hmm.
me,
Hmm.
something that I'm doing, or is this something that's a larger problem? If it's a larger problem, let me talk to my manager, let me talk to my HR person, let me see what can we do to fix it, right? If it really, then of course, everyone has agency and you should move on at that. That's really the case. But doing that exercise is extremely important.
So, PG, when you talk to your, say, your manager or your HR manager, how should how should you have that dialogue to keep the door open? It shouldn't be like you're not even listening to your manager. It should be like a two-way discussion. How should you discuss about improving your role or say improving your job profile so that you actually stay in the company with whatever you want to do over there to grow?
See, look, there are two types of people, right? And I've had both these discussions. One is this person made up her mind. She's just decided, "Main to jaane wali hu. I am going to quit. High water. I am gone." Right? So if you are that person, if you already the first time you talk to HR or the first time your boss is when you made up your mind like that, then kind of, there's nothing to be said and done, and we wish you well, and then you kind of go on and whatever. Right? I don't think that's the way to do it at all, personally. It's disrespectful to your manager, it's disrespectful to your company without giving them a chance to address the issues that you might be having, to just come and say, "Dude, I'm done," right? So that, don't do that. I would strongly recommend that don't be that person who actually does that, because it's just, it's unprofessional in several ways, right? And, so that's one. Now, if you're the person who's actually entering this process with an open mind, trying to explore her options and trying to see what is the best way to go about it, right? Then you should basically then say, "Okay, look, I'm having these issues. I want to talk about them." Then is when your manager is also willing to have that discussion with you, right? If you were to come to me and say, "PG, I'm leaving tomorrow," I'll say, "Fine, please go," right? But if you come and say, "Look, I'm having these issues. I don't know what to do about it. How can we kind of fix this?" Then I can have a discussion with you, right? The other classic mistake is to come and say, "Hey, XYZ company is giving me a pay rise. If you don't match it," right? And if, unfortunately for you, if the other person is something like me, I'm like, "Please go," right? We don't tend to negotiate with people who hold a gun to our heads, right? Unless you are like so critical that the company will die without you. And no one is that critical. I'm not that critical, right? So no one wants to get into this bidding war and then say, "You do it." So you say you're successful and we give you the raise. You will tell 3 of your other colleagues. The next day, 3 of if you've got a thing, you gave it to Ekta, give it to me as well. So don't go to your manager and say, "I'm getting an offer from a company, and if you don't match it, I'm going." Definitely don't do it without the offer in your hand, right? If you do it without the offer in your hand,
of course,
you're kind of in trouble, because someone like me will say, "Please."
That would be a big mistake.
Yeah. But even if you have your offer in your hand, if you really want to give the company to counter it, you have to do it in a very, very tactical and a very sensible fashion, right? Look, I have been given this great opportunity. I really like what I'm doing right now. I really like working with you. I'd love to continue, but financially it doesn't make sense to me. Can we look at something? So at that point, I might turn around and say, "Okay, maybe not right now, maybe at the next one." But we can kind of have a discussion about how we can make you whole because of this firm offer that you have in your hand, and you need to show me proof of that offer. It can't just be, "Oh, my friend is whatever and she's going to whatever." So that doesn't work, right? So don't hold a gun to anyone's head saying, "If you don't do this to me, I'm gone," because someone else is giving me something else. That doesn't work, right? So that's a classic. I've seen it happen so many times, and oftentimes the other person is shell shocked and say, "Yeah, of course, please go. I wish you well," right? So then you know that this person is just basically trying to bluff her way through, and it doesn't work out. So don't enter these discussions with a closed mind. Don't have this constant discussion with yourself and your friends where you've actually argued the whole thing out amongst yourselves without actually involving the other party concerned, which is your reporting manager or the company, right? Oftentimes, I can see 3 groups of friends, they will keep talking about it. It's happening. And by the time this poor person has decided that she's going to move on, and her friends have helped her decide, she even once hasn't spoken to HR or her reporting manager. So it just puts in a bad position because you're actually not taking the right call because of that. And I say is, my friend has quit, I'm quitting as well, right? That,
That happens a lot, actually.
yeah, and I don't see the logic for that, right? Like, just because your friend has quit, you don't need to quit the company because of that.
Yeah, true.
Oh, my friend wasn't happy in this company, so I'm going to quit as well. I mean, of course, we see this happening at the very entry levels. I don't, of course, expect people of
Yeah, true.
to turn around and do that. I mean, something would happen very badly to you if you did that. But don't do that. Like, really quitting because your friend is not a reason to leave a company. It really isn't.
First. So we think money, finance is one aspect of it, but sometimes people, out of these discussions, sometimes people expect like a bigger role, a promotion. So how do you really, what if you really need more job responsibility? How should you convey that to your manager? How should you ask for, say, a promotion?
See, honestly, it should not be with the threat of quitting firstly, right? Say you're feeling underutilized in a company. Say you're looking for more responsibility. Say there are areas where you feel you can contribute more. That is the time to have a very healthy conversation with your manager saying, listen, I'm really excited about what's happening. And I'd love to kind of contribute some more. These are the areas where I feel I can add value. I would love more responsibility, right? I have never known a manager who, when told this, has said no, right? You don't need to,
Yeah.
oh, if you don't give this to me, I'm quitting. Like if you were to come to me, hey, I need to take over this entire area of your problem, absolutely, you're welcome to do it, right? But it does not again need to be at the threat of saying, if you don't give it to me, I'm going to quit, right? If you want to have a discussion and the last line is, if I don't get it, I quit, then you basically kind of finished any form of negotiation that you could have with your company, right? So this threat to quit should only be used when you really, really mean it. And when the other person,
Yeah.
if the other person were to say yes, you would still be the winner in that negotiation, right? Which
Right.
you have the super firm offer in your hand that you are happy to take, right? Offer that's a financially better offer, but it's actually generally a job that you'd like to do. If your company doesn't give you what you want, then you can properly go and say, guys, I'm excited. I would like to continue working with you, but I have this offer. This makes sense to me. Is there a way that we can continue to work together? If not, then respectfully, I'd like to kind of take that up. That's fine. And that we versus saying, yeah, if you don't give this to me, I'm quitting, which is not the way to go about it.
Yeah. So, PJ, for instance, you have an offer and you go into a meeting with your manager and you're having a discussion. Sometimes it happens that you get a counter offer. So, how do you evaluate whether you should take the counter offer or should you go for the offer that you have from the other company?
See, honestly, again, I just want to put it out to the room that likelihood if you're getting a counter offer in that meeting is 0 to none, right? No manager is going to, without talking to their seniors or to HR, going to turn around and say, oh, okay, so you got this much, I'll give you that much. It's not very unlikely that it's going to happen that way. Mostly in that meeting, what's going to be said is, so look, we hear you. Let us come back to you and let us tell you what we think, right? Usually that's what happens. At some point later, you'll be told, okay, this is, well, if you're lucky, you get told, okay, this is what you're willing to do. And then you have time to think about it. You look at the financial sides of it. You look at the kind of the job profile, where you are, where you will be. Make a rational call. But meeting, are you ever expected to come up with an offer? If you are, to come up with a yes or no to an offer, A, the offer doesn't get made in the meeting. B, if it is made, you can always say, listen, I'm so glad to hear this. Please allow me some time. I will think about it and I'll get back to you. You never should you actually take a knee-jerk call in a meeting, especially something that's that important, right? You can always ask for more time and say, listen, thank you, but let me come back to you in a day or so, and I'll happily kind of let you know what I think. So again, that's a more rational way of responding. Oh my God, this is too low. I want more. I mean, which also has happened in the past. But yeah, don't do that. Don't be that.
Right. So let's say, for instance, you have your manager has offered you something better, and you decide to take that. This is something that you get to hear a lot of times, that employers sometimes become resentful in the long run if you reject other companies' offer and you decide to stay in the same company. So how do you deal?
I didn't understand you. What did you say?
So I'm saying that you tell your manager that you have an offer and you get a counter offer. So sometimes it happens that when you decide to take the counter offer and stay in the same company, employers sometimes, they turn resentful in the long run. So how do you deal with that? Does that even happen? Because this is
I
something that we get to hear a lot.
no. Look, again, it doesn't, I mean, if you're important enough for you to get a counter offer to stay in the company, you are a resource that the company really wants, right? So the company or your manager is not going to get resentful. Definitely the company
Hmm.
is going to get resentful. You might get the feeling, you might attribute certain reactions to that. So that's probably where this question stems from. But usually if a manager is going to bat for you and say, okay, I really need to keep this person, I need to give her a counter offer. And managers have come to me and we've had that discussion, right? And if I know that someone is willing to bat for this person, then you're really wanted, right? So unlikely that
Hmm.
sentiment happens because of that. But it's easy to attribute some other issue to this thing. Oh, because I accepted the counter offer, my manager didn't like me looking at another offer. That's why, I mean, it's you're extrapolating two different.
Yeah, that can happen.
Yeah.
So PJ, like, you decide to stay in the company and you are not quitting. So how should you, like, in the starting, in the beginning, you said that that you will land up in the same place after 6 months. So how should you work on yourself, to improve yourself so that you don't face a similar situation, say, in next 6 months?
See, honestly, I think self-awareness is a very underrated quality, right? But it's the most important quality that you should have. Self-awareness basically means that understanding the impact that you have in person, understanding the impact that you have in the company, right? So, like for example, I worked on myself for a long time and I'm beginning to understand my own impact now, right? Like for example,
Hmm.
I'm good at, or the thing, but spaces where I'm good at, I know spaces where I need work, right? And I'm able to notice these triggers that happen, right? If something were to happen to me, I can almost predict how I will react, and having that awareness of your own self helps me a lot. So all of us as professionals need to have that, right? If you tend to go into a shell when confronted, right? Some people do that. Now, if you are one of those,
Hmm.
to build strategies to compensate for that, right? Or do you get more aggressive if the other person's getting aggressive, right? If you do, then you probably again need strategies to counter that behavior, because everything should be fairly even the way you react, right? Too many highs and lows don't end up working well for anybody in the long run. So really saying that, look, I don't like the way my boss talks to me, maybe I should figure out a way to end that conversation right then. And so I can say, listen, I don't appreciate the way you speak to me right now. Maybe we both need to kind of take some space and let's discuss this again. That's a much
Hmm.
way of ending a confrontation than you either getting upset and resentful or you shut the same room. Neither of them actually end up working
Hmm.
in the long run, right? So having these strategies in place is basically what actually makes you much more empowered as an employee, as a person, frankly, and it makes sure that you don't end up making the same mistakes over and over again. Remember, your colleagues, your bosses, your company, HR, everyone is a personality type, and we are able to
Yeah.
slot, and you are able to slot us as well, right? So ultimately, as a company, we don't end up judging people as such. We understand, look, she is like this, let's work around with her like that. So and so is like that, we'll work.
Hmm.
So that allowance we are anyway making as a company. It's just that I think
Hmm.
you should be making that as well for yourself and for the company as well, also, right? So give
Hmm.
that space for people to think and making
Hmm.
for the behavior, trying to understand where they are coming from and then reacting is a much better solution to just reacting one way or the other, right? So that little pause that you can give in the middle of before the reaction, that is important. And the longer and more thoughtful you make that pause, the better the outcome. Knee-jerk reactions never work. In my life, I've sent several knee-jerk emails to people. They have never worked out. I still kind of get them to the day, right? So take that time to process what's happening. Try processing it for yourself before you start getting your friends involved in the discussion, right? And definitely make sure you involve the other party in the processing of whatever's happened and not exclude them from that, right? If you and your
Right.
and not spoken to the boss or the manager, it is childish.
Right. So PG, another reason that a lot of people, quit their jobs is because they have been with the company for a long, long time. So sometimes it's peer pressure because your colleagues, your friends are changing jobs, so you also want to change the job. So should you really do that if you've been with the company for a long time and you're happy? Should you even think of, changing your job?
Okay, that's a loaded question, Ekta, if I've ever, right? But since I did this famous, so I'll give it a stab. Look, I mean, planning your career and your career trajectory has to be a very mindful exercise, right? It has to be a very intentional exercise. You should know where you want to be in 5, 10 years time, right?
Yeah.
You should have shared your 5, 10-year plan with your manager, saying, okay, I'm here today. In the next 5 years, I'd like to be somewhere else, right? And I'd like to work with you in the company to do exactly that, right? And companies kind of well set up, they will help you get there. Like forever, I mean, I am constantly looking at you all and saying, okay, now she is here, she's comfortable. How can I push her to the next level now, right? And some of you have been through that process with me, and Sayukta, if she's on it, definitely has been through that process with me, right? So
Yeah.
company basically is looking to see how can we help you grow further in the role that you are. And that is the company's job to do well, right? Now imagine you're in place for 5 years and you are not feeling like you're growing as a person within the company, but you're happy, you're stagnating, right? Before you reach that point, you have to reach out to your manager and say, listen, I'm really happy where I am. I want to do more. Help me do more, right? And the company should work with you on that. But for some reason, if the company is happy pigeonholing you and they've done it for 5 years and you have ambitions, but the company is not willing to give you space for the ambitions, if all of this is true, it is not true in PopX,
Yeah.
it is not true in MyGlam, but if all of this is true, you can kind of think of moving on. But make sure that you've done the work. Remember, joining a new company from a company where you're comfortable and from a company where you've done well, there you're going in
Yeah.
over again, right? You have to prove yourself all over again.
That's true.
So you might be a rock star in my company and I couldn't kind of, I mean, I talk to you 25,000 times a day and you're happy,
Yeah.
doing
You
well.
kind of have to work from scratch.
The new company, you're going to have to work from scratch. So are you willing to pull in?
Yeah.
And the new company might headhunt you and all of that, but they still don't know you, right?
Yeah, true.
It's going to take time. So weigh that into your equation, right? Like Sanjana has been with the company for, I mean, as much as I've been with the company, and I hope she's really
Yeah.
kind of, I mean, I depend on her, right? I mean, so many of you have, right? Manan's, again, all of you guys have been with the company for so long, and it's my pleasure that you guys have. And I've really had the privilege of seeing you grow from where you joined to where you are, leading such a large team and doing so many kind of exciting things. So that company's pleasure, right? And that is my pleasure as well. So it depends on company to company. If you're stagnating and you've told your company that I'm stagnating, I'd like to do more, the company ignores you, yeah, I would then recommend that you move on. But maybe talk to the company before you take that call. Oh, and I remember very, very early on, there was this very bright young girl whose name I won't take. And she and said, you know, I'm going to move on. I'm like, why are you going to move on? You're doing so well. We can offer you this responsibility. Let's kind of scale you up in this way. You know, Picha, I'd love to do that. I love you. I love PopXO. But, you know, it was ho gaya. I'm like, what do you mean by that? She said, you know, I spent 2 years here and you know, I'd like to get another company on my CV. And she, and I'm like, are they paying you more? What is it? Just explain. I wanted to really understand where she was coming from. And they weren't paying her more. It was not a step up in profile. It was just a different logo on her CV. And she moved on for that reason. And then I followed her career trajectory over time, right? I just really wanted to see where does this person, because I was genuinely fond of this person. She was a good worker and she was very smart and bright and all of that. I really wanted to follow her trajectory. See, you know, she made this decision today. I want to see where she ends up. And she's still kind of in a very similar position. I mean, I think it's 3 or 4 years since, and she's still there. And she hasn't really moved on. Like, I mean, and her peers, literally her peers who were in the same exact role as her, have actually kind of become kind of senior leaders in our organization. So yeah, so I mean, that was a very bizarre reason. That is 2 years ho gaya bas main jaane wali hu, just for the reason ki ho gaya, right? And she was happy. It wasn't she was having any problem. So that does not make, again, that for me was kind of an irrational call. And don't do that, right? That doesn't make sense. Just to get a logo on your CV, you shouldn't kind of decide to move companies. That's not a good enough reason.
Right.
Unless, of course, I
You
don't know,
can,
is Google.
I was saying that, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
Yeah.
No, I was saying that you can tell me the name after the light gets over.
No. I won't do it.
Of course, I know. I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's move on to the next question, PG. So, for instance, you decide to leave. You've made this decision that you're moving on. So, how should you do that gracefully? What are the things that you should write in your resignation letter? How should you move on?
See, look, firstly, the first time your manager hears of you moving on should not be when you tell her that you're moving on, right? You should have had
Yeah.
discussions with your company before you tell them this is it, right? So it should not be a shock. If by chance it's a shock and you haven't listened to anything I've said so far, then make sure that you kind of set the context really well and do it in a polite fashion and do it in a way that leaves the door open for sure, right? Kind of throwing kind of the baby bathwater, the whole sink out because you're resentful. And I've seen that happen a lot as well, right? It is silly because then your manager's never going to give you time of the day. If you kind of get deleted from that person's memory and people just move on, right? Life is too short to kind of dwell on that. So, I mean, I've seen situations where, again, illogically, where the leaving email is loaded, all the resentment is kind of out there for you to read between the lines, and everyone can also read in the lines as well. It is such a bad idea, right? Because it's just so unprofessional. And several of those people who've written those emails have come back and say, hey, we want to come back to the company, right? And for me to be that much bigger person, okay, she sent that really shitty email when she was leaving, and now she wants to come back.
Come back.
And sometimes you're human and you're like, listen, forget it. There's so many other people who are excited to be here and let's kind of go for them, right?
Yeah, true.
Don't be that person. It gets you nothing. Not a gracious email costs you nothing, except maybe your ego kind of sitting down a little bit, but which is fine, right? Send a really gracious email. Make sure that you're getting the hierarchy of the people in the right order, right?
Yeah.
And if you're going to name check everyone, right? So if you really are going to do all of that, do it properly, right? If not, a very simple, sweet email, do it nicely, and you're done, right? Writing to the HR manager and saying, hey, HR manager, I'm quitting. Thank you so much. Had a lovely time. Your name, and just CCing your manager. It's horrible. This poor person and has worked with you for so long, and you aren't even giving the courtesy of addressing your resignation to her, right? It's just bad manners. And bad manners, I mean, there's no excuse for bad manners. So don't do that. And
yeah, you should really leave your baggage.
you've decided you're doing the best. And the other thing I notice is, again, there are two types of people. Once they've decided to move on, they forget everything, right? They're going to just leave everything in a mess.
Yeah.
That makes no sense. And there's some people who actually get way more efficient than they ever were when they're moving on, which I don't understand either. I'm like, if you were so freaking efficient, why couldn't you have been so efficient before? So you've been retained, right? So I think the answer is to kind of leave on a great note. Make sure you finish all your work, right? If your manager has attempted to keep you and you've not agreed, make sure that you kind of really handle that tactfully. Try and remain friends with the people who work with you, right? And and the very other weird thing I notice is, for example, saying you've decided to move on, right? And your 1 month notice period is whatever is on. You are like parting your way through the 1 month, right? Like acting as if, like this is really this great life event happening when all your other colleagues are still working in the same company. I just find that so mindless, right? Like, why would you do it? This is so unprofessional for you to be kind of doing all of this. All you're leaving to start, and you're calling the small group of friends, you're calling that small group of friends. Like this whole college drama or high school drama that is not required in a workplace is really not required. And everyone is noticing it, right? Remember, your colleagues at some point,
true.
They may become the people who hire you for your next gig. So while they might have fun right now, they will remember how you did it. They'll carry on with you. So again, I think my title of this AMS is Don't Be That Person.
So, Apiti, you have had some really interesting encounters. I mean, as a founder, you've seen so much.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've had a lot of fun. I've had literally, I keep calling it my privilege because it is. I've had the privilege of seeing so much happen, right? And so many people, and so many different types of people come and go. So it's a bit, I mean, I really enjoy it. It's almost an intense intellectual exercise for me. and nothing surprises me anymore, I think, which is quite nice. And in the beginning, I'd have these really strong reactions to everything because you were seeing it for the first time. And now I'm like, yeah, okay, she's acting like that person and that person and that person. It's okay. We'll figure this out, right? The company has historic and muscle memory, right? Over time, it develops it. And that's why no one is that indispensable, because we know so-and-so moved and we survived it, right? Once that happens, you can pretty much survive anyone moving on.
True. So while we're talking about things you should not do when you're moving on, is there a, like, is there a checklist that you should follow while you're moving on? Because you have to, you have a lot of things to hand over to your juniors, to your colleagues. So how do you do that? How should you, take care of that process so that it's smooth, your move is smooth?
See, look, really plan it out and be more conscientious than you've ever been in your life when you're handing over to the next person, right? Do it in a way that you really should really make your reporting manager regret the fact that you're moving on. That is what you should be doing, right? So that level of efficiency should be there versus me thinking, thank God, man, if this person was going to be so bonkers, I mean, I'm glad that she's out of the system now, right? So be a lot more gracious than you've ever been, be a lot more diligent than you've ever been, and really make sure that the company is not going to get damaged by your random kind of act of moving on, right? Because it is a random act in the long history of the company. So taking effort to do that is very, very important. And, I've had some lovely folks who've done that in the best way possible, and some senior people who've done that in the brilliant way possible as well. And I'm always grateful to them because the company did not get damaged by their actions at that point, right? They moved on. I wish them well. They're happy in life. I'm happy as well. But we remember, right? And tomorrow, come back and say, hey, I want to come back. He or she would be welcome back into the company because I remember that they did such a great job while moving on and they didn't do any of the kind of the random drama that other people do. So that leaves the door open. So the idea should be, look, I want to leave it in the best way possible. Tomorrow, for whatever reason, if I ever want to come back to the company, they should welcome me back, right?
Right.
And that attitude in mind, that is when you're actually doing a good act of moving on, right? And serve out your notice. If you're that senior, serve out your notice period. Do your best in that, right? Don't say, okay, I'm going in 10 days because other guys are kind of wanting me now. You guys figure yourselves out, right? That is not helpful to anyone as well. So it almost, the act of how you leave will set kind of the last word on you much more than you've done in your tenure with the company, right? So make it a good one.
Right. So, PJ, I would like to take some questions from the viewers now. So, I have one question over here, which is an interesting question actually. Like, what if you are happy in the company, but you are not happy with the change in management? What should you do then? Like, if you've been working for the company for a long time, and if you're not happy with the sudden change in management, should you think of quitting your job?
See, again, I would still follow the same process, right? Why am I not happy with the change in management? Is there something that I can do about it? Can I have a discussion with my manager and with HR to try and fix it? And if you can't find that, and if the change in management is so bad that you want to move on, right? Then of course you follow. The process is still the same, no matter what the reason it might be. But just saying I'm happy, but I'm moving on because management has changed is again irrational. So that does not make sense to me, at least, right? So I would still want to explore the possibility of staying if I'm happy and if I feel that my future is stronger here. And again, not making a knee-jerk reaction because management has changed. And management changes all the time. At PopX, so we've seen that happen in kind of such a stark way, right? And it's fine. I'm happy that so many of us, are still around, and so many of you guys are still around, right? So, it's okay. So life happens, and there's no guarantee the new company you might like your boss and the management might change there again. How many times do we right? So that's a good enough reason to say that I'm moving on because management has changed.
Right. So basically, we discussed a lot about, why you should, do this quick analysis, whether you really need to quit your job or not. But I would like to know if there are any signs that tell you that, okay, now you really need to quit your job. So what are those signs? Like, how can you, just decide, okay, now it's time to move on?
That's actually a great question because you will start to get signs if it's time for you to move on, right? And then hanging on to the job for dear life is also not a smart idea, right? And responsibilities will be taken away from you. No further responsibilities will be assigned to you, right? You'll feel that your kind of the scope of your work is getting a bit reduced, right? It will probably happen without your say so. And often this is not a planned move by the company. It's just the pace at which the company is moving. For some reason, you're not able to find your space in there, right? And if you start to see those signs happen again, you do that same thing. Hey, I'd like more work. Tell me what to do. I want to do more. How can I do more? And if the company is still not willing to engage with you at that point, then you've gotten your answer. So again, my process is still the same. If I start to see those things happen, I will turn up and say, guys, okay, I want to do more. Tell me what to do. If the company is not willing to engage with you at that point, then it's time to move on, right? So the process actually doesn't change, at least the way I look at it. It's actually the same no matter what instigation you're getting for it. But you should not for signs. You should be reading the room a lot, and you should be understanding, okay, so I was doing X, Y, and Z. Now I'm not doing it. Someone else is doing it. Did I do something wrong? Let me find out. Let me see what I can do. Can I do something more? All of those kind of that dialogue you need to be having should be a constant one.
Right. Having that dialogue is really like, I think that's an important step that that can.
I think I'd like to really underline the right person here, right? Having that your best friend who's going to basically be your echo chamber and make you feel exactly the way you're feeling, but escalated.
Yeah, true.
Not going to get you out of the situation.
Yeah, right. I get that. So, PJ, this was a really, really insightful discussion that we've had. I've got a lot of information from out of this. I think I have asked pretty much all the questions that our audience, that our viewers had. So, I think we're gonna end it here. Thank you so much, PG, thank you for taking out the time.
Let's just go through the questions.
Sorry?
I don't want to miss out the questions. I have another 5 minutes more.
Okay, I have almost, so this was my last question actually, how to find out that, the signs that it's really, okay, what to do?
Yeah, sorry.
Sorry. There is one question, what to do when learning curve flattens, but there are not enough opportunities around, especially during the present time post-COVID?
See, honestly, look, I mean, now is not the time to quit a company, frankly. If you have a stable job, I think please stay in that, would be my general advice. Unless, of course, there's something egregiously wrong happening, because we don't know how the economy is going to pan out, right? So probably now is not making any strong career moves unless you're getting headhunted for a really amazing job, right? So,
yeah.
There for sure. If you feel that you're stagnating and you don't know what's going to happen next, probably stay where you are. Work on your profile, work on your LinkedIn, kind of maybe follow the other AMAs that we've done on those things, and really work on your profile right now, right? So as and when the economy gets better, you actually will get more opportunities. Probably your company itself will give you more opportunities because you'll be more visible at that time as well. So right now is not the time to make any kind of knee-jerk reactions. And I mean, right now people are unfortunately getting laid off, right? So I don't think so.
That's true, yeah.
So yeah, so really kind of make sure that you're visible in the company, your work is visible in the company, you're really putting in 120% of your effort right now. Because if you're not doing that, and if your company is thinking of laying people off, then you will probably be on the chopping block if that effort is. So put in that effort right now. Now is not the time to slack off, basically.
Right. I have another interesting question from Karishma PG. Should you tell the true reason of leaving a company, or reason should be pleasing to the manager? I mean, should you be honest, or should you be, should you hide those reasons?
It depends on where you're having this conversation, right? In your leaving email, please make it a pleasant reason. There's no point washing dirty laundry into your leaving email. You're going to leave on a good note is the plan. But when you're talking to your manager about your concerns, that time I think diplomatic honesty is a good thing, right? Of course, don't be unfiltered honesty doesn't work anywhere in the professional space, but diplomatic honesty is a good thing because you really want to give the manager a chance to improve the situation, right? If at that point you're going to kind of gloss around and not give the honest answer, then you're not giving the manager a chance, right? So in a closed room, please be diplomatically honest, right? And try and show the situation from all sides if you can. But once you've decided to leave, then please, do not wash your dirty laundry in public and say, oh, so-and-so is good to me, so-and-so is good to me, and leave the third person out of that email, right? That makes no sense. Don't do that.
So, okay, another question that we have here, it's kind of, I don't know, Uh, so Neeta is asking how to cope up with relocation problem. I relocated but I feel anxious. Like, I mean, I think she's asking that she wants to move on, but she is anxious about changing her job.
The change is hard, and if you're doing it, it's just going to be hard. You are unfortunately in that situation right now. You're going to have to kind of power through it. And there's literally nothing I can say. Try and find out the root cause for your anxiety. What is making you anxious? This generalized anxiety is a bad thing, right? It never works for anyone. So try and literally write down all the reasons that are making you anxious. Try attributing a cause to them and a solution to them, right? So once you start working through the reasons that make you anxious, you'll actually come up with a plan of action. And then when generally when I'm anxious about something, I actually literally sit down with a piece of paper and pen. I make a list. I'm anxious because 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? And this is what's making me anxious. This will stop making me anxious. And I try and do, or at least make the stop making me anxious things happen. So that's probably kind of, yeah.
Okay, Vijay, I'm asking one more question. I find it interesting. Lisa is asking that if you're not happy in a role or if you're not happy in the industry that you are in altogether, so how should you make the transition?
See, look, this is a broader issue for your career, right? If you're not happy in the industry, you really do need to, again, please sit down with yourself, maybe even talk to an HR person, maybe talk to a consultant who's an HR, someone who has a kind of an understanding of the industry or industries in general, and work on it, right? So I would actually, if I was in the position, I would actually try and find a professional who can help me talk through this and really understand why I'm feeling the way I am and what are my options, right? This is not something to be done in a hurry. This is not something to be done in a reactive way. Again, you need to sit down and figure out a plan of action for yourself that works, probably in conjunction with a specialist, right? If you're not feeling well, you go to a doctor, you get a medicine, you fix it, right? Think of it like your career is not feeling well right now. I need to go and talk to a specialist. Let me work with them to figure it out, right? Probably not something.
That's a really good way of explaining, Suji. I mean, that's a great example.
Cool. So I think there is this one from Preksha. Oh, our whole office is getting empty. The pressure is coming on the existing people. Yeah, so look, that happens a lot, right? When there's a lot of layoffs in the company and existing people have to do maybe double work and stuff, that just happens, right? If you want to stay in the company, you're going to have to figure out a way to work. It's just the way reality is right now. If you want to move on, follow all the other bits of things that I've said right now. But I mean, I feel for you, but it's kind of unfortunately the case where in certain companies you have to contract and the work doesn't stop. All I can say is it's not a sustainable situation. The company will have to improve in that. Otherwise, all of you will quit, right? So it's a short-term issue, I'd imagine. If it becomes a long-term issue, then please talk to your manager about it and say, look, I understand that the company is in pressure right now. I'm happy to contribute at the moment. For how long is this thing going to continue? If it's going to be forever, then of course you have options at that point.
Right. So PJ, Neeta has actually changed her question. She's asking that she means that if she has, like she's relocated for her job, but now relocation is making her anxious, so what should she do?
Same thing, Baba. There's no other answer to this. You're going to call you, right? Now you're going to have to make the best of it. So again, please figure out what of the relocations is making you anxious and see if you can kind of work your way through it. Go have to deal with it. You've taken a call, right? So I mean, it's kind of, now you need to control the situation. The situation's already there.
Yeah, true.
Awesome.
Vijay, I think we are almost done with the questions. I don't see any more questions. I think I've probably taken all of them.
Amazing.
So I think.
Thank you.
Sorry, what?
Thank
you so much, PJ. Thank you for taking out the time and thank you for doing this such an informational and insightful discussion. Thank you so much, PJ.
Yeah, there's one last one. Quitting a job within a year is a bad sign. It's a very bad sign. Please don't do that. Just don't do that. Don't.
Sometimes people quit, I think, in lesser than a month, than a year also.
It's just your CV looks bad. I mean, when I look at a CV with job quitting times within a year, it's, I'm like, this person here for too long, I'm not going to train this person up, right? So once in a while, it's okay if you really have to, but don't make it a pattern.
Right. True. Cool. Thank you so much, PG.
Thank you. Such a pleasure. Let's do this again soon.
Yes, next week maybe.
See you. Bye.
Bye.